Two groups of Americans are the most likely to say they live paycheck to paycheck. The first group earns under $50,000 a year. The second group earns over $300,000 a year. Not a typo. The people at the very bottom of the income scale and the people in the top few percent are more likely to be broke by the end of the month than almost anyone in between. This matters because almost every piece of financial advice and almost every private thought about money quietly assumes the opposite, that more income is the fix, that the anxiety will ease once the number on the paycheck gets bigger, that people earning several times the median household income have, by definition, solved the problem everyone else is still working on. The data says something far less comfortable. The problem was never sized to an income bracket. It was sized to a gap, and the gap can be just as absent at $300,000 as it is at $30,000. Start with the number that makes this undeniable. Roughly 40% of workers earning over $300,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. Nearly a third of households earning $100,000 or more say they are struggling to pay bills with nothing left over for savings. Even among households earning $500,000 or more, a meaningful share report they cannot get ahead. This is not a rounding error or a handful of unusual cases. It is a documented, repeated pattern across every major survey measuring it. The mechanism has a name already covered on this channel: lifestyle inflation. But seeing it only in the context of a modest raise misses how completely it scales. The same psychological pattern that turns a $5,000 raise into a slightly nicer phone and a few more dinners out turns a $150,000 income jump into a bigger house, a second car, private school tuition, and a mortgage sized to match the new number. And the gap between income and spending, the only number that actually matters, ends up identical to where it started, sometimes smaller. The specific purchases change entirely as the income bracket rises, but the underlying decision does not. At $50,000, the upgrade is a newer phone plan or a slightly larger apartment. At $150,000, it is a car lease and a home in a better school district. At $300,000, it is a primary residence with a much larger mortgage, a vacation property carrying its own tax and maintenance burden, and a private school tuition bill that recurs every single year regardless of how the household's other expenses shift. None of these purchases look reckless in isolation at their respective income level. Each one is the kind of decision a financially sensible person at that income could plausibly justify. That is exactly the problem. The trap does not require a single obviously bad decision. It requires only that every individual decision expand to match the income, leaving the same structural gap, or lack of one, at every rung of the ladder. A household earning $150,000 in a major city with $3,500 in rent, 2 car payments, and private school tuition can have less real financial breathing room than a household earning $60,000 in a lower-cost area with a modest, unremarkable lifestyle. The second household is not poorer in any way that matters. It is simply not running the trap. Here is the part that makes this genuinely difficult to see from the inside. The trap does not feel like a trap at either income level. It feels like normal life. The low earner is not making an obviously reckless choice buying groceries and paying rent. Those are necessities. And 29% of lower-income households report spending over 95% of their take-home pay on exactly that category, an amount that leaves nothing left over almost by definition. The high earner is not making an obviously reckless choice either. The bigger house came with a legitimate mortgage. The private school felt like a responsible investment in a child's future. The nicer car came with real safety features. Neither person, at either income level, experiences their spending as excess. Every purchase felt justified in the moment it was made. This is precisely why the size of an income says almost nothing about financial safety, and why comparing a life to someone else's visible spending, the exact mechanism covered in the savings rate video, fails just as badly looking up the income ladder as it does looking sideways at a coworker. A $500,000 household with a private jet membership is not evidence of financial security. It is evidence of a lifestyle sized to a number, with no information at all about the gap beneath it. The one number that actually distinguishes the households that escape this pattern from the ones that don't, at every income level studied, is the same one covered in a previous video. The intentional gap between income and spending, protected regardless of how large the income becomes. Financial security was never a destination reached by crossing a specific income threshold. There is no salary at which the trap automatically stops being possible. The data on $500,000 households proves that directly. Security is a behavior, repeated at every income level, of treating a rising income as an opportunity to widen the gap, rather than an automatic upgrade to the lifestyle funding it. This produces a specific, almost uncomfortable implication. A person currently earning $45,000 who protects even a modest savings rate is running a more sound financial strategy in the only sense that actually matters than a person earning $350,000 whose entire lifestyle absorbs the paycheck the moment it lands. The first person is not richer in absolute terms. They are not more likely to be caught by the trap that catches both income tiers described at the start, which is the only distinction that predicts who is still standing after an unexpected job loss, a medical bill, or a bad month. None of this is an argument that income does not matter, or that earning more provides no benefit. A higher income, paired with a protected gap, is unambiguously the strongest position available. It is the combination, not the income figure alone, that produces real security. The argument is narrower and more specific. Income alone, without an intentional gap protected against lifestyle inflation, provides none of the safety it appears to promise at any level, including the very top of the distribution the survey data was measuring. The fix does not change based on which side of the income scale a person sits on. Automate the gap the moment income arrives, before the lifestyle has a chance to expand into whatever room the new number provides. Treat every raise, every bonus, every jump in income as an opportunity to widen the gap first, before a single dollar of it gets assigned to a bigger house, a better car, or an upgraded life that quietly recreates the identical financial fragility at a larger scale. Concretely, this means applying the same income increase rule covered in an earlier video, regardless of which income bracket it applies to. A fixed percentage of every raise or bonus is redirected to savings and investing before the remaining amount is available to fund any lifestyle change at all. It means treating a new, higher salary as an opportunity to accelerate the freedom number timeline first, and only secondarily as a license to upgrade housing, vehicles, or recurring commitments. And it means recognizing that the emotional pull to finally enjoy a higher income immediately is the exact same impulse operating at every income level in the data above. It does not disappear at $150,000 or $300,000. It simply has more expensive options available to act on. The households in the survey data who escaped this pattern were not the ones who earned the most. They were the ones who treated the gap as the metric to protect at every single raise, regardless of how large the number attached to that raise happened to be. The paycheck-to-paycheck households earning $50,000 and the paycheck-to-paycheck households earning $300,000 are not two different problems requiring two different solutions. They are the same problem, observed at two different altitudes, and the fix was never a bigger number. It was always the gap. Drop a comment with the income level at which this trap feels most relevant right now. The next video covers the specific automation setup that protects the gap at every income level, from a first job to a peak earning year.